How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Kuf Nun Hey of Masechta. Yes, BavaBasra, friends. Okay. Well, we had discussed yesterday, I guess. Yeah, there was this story in Bnei Brak with this. A father had passed away, and then the child sold the estate, and the other heirs were making the argument that, well, he was unable to sell the estate because he was a minor, he was a kohen. So today's daf really talks about what does it mean to be a kohen vis-a-vis selling the property of an estate that one has inherited. Okay. It says the Gemara on Daf Kuf Nun Hey Amud Aleph, about halfway through the Amud. Itmai was stated kohen, a minor, me'imosai mocher b'nichsei aviv. So at what point can a kohen sell the estate of his father that he's inherited? Rave Omar Rav Nachman ben Shmona Esrei Shonis. So Rave says the name of Rav Nachman, 18 years old. Rav Huna bar Chinuna Amar Rav Nachman mi ben Esrim Shona, 20 years old. Okay, so Rav says once he's 18, he can sell the estate of his father. Rav says the name of Rav Nachman, and Rav Huna bar Chinuna says the name of Rav Nachman from 20. Most Reb Zeir, however, Reb Zeir asks a kasha. What is his kasha? Ma'aseh b'Bnei Brak, the story from yesterday. There was a ma'aseh in Bnei Brak, that somebody there was somebody inherited his father, and then he sold the estate, umeis, and he passed away, and then the other heirs. So I looked at the art school yesterday. I was explaining it. I think that there were 3 kids, and then Levi sold part of the estate, but they wanted to, and then he died. Then they said it was an invalid sale because I guess they wanted to inherit it from Levi. The article, I think, explained it that maybe, I don't think that really makes a difference, but maybe it's just a little bit easier to understand, arguably, I don't know. Anyways, that there was one child, so the father bequeathed it to the child then sold the estate to somebody else, the child then died, so now those who would stand to inherit the child said, wait, he had no right to sell it. Okay, so basically the next in line from the son who died, they came Be'ir Aru, and they sort of made a claim, Lomar, to say Ka'in Hoya Bishasmi, so that the child who sold his father's estate was not old enough. He was unable to actually sell it because he was a minor at the time that he died, and therefore it doesn't belong to the buyers, does not belong to the lekuchis. They came then and they asked Rabbi Akiva, well, why don't we open up the grave and let's check, let's see if he has shtei sayros, let's see if he has 2 pubic hairs. So if so, then he would be considered a gadol and the sale is valid. If not, then he would be a kohen and the sale is invalid. Okay. Rabbi Akiva, of course, responds, no, you can't desecrate his grave like that to open it up to check for shtei sayros. And even more so, simanan asuyin l'shtanas lachar misa, that even if there would be shtei sayros, it wouldn't actually mean anything, since physical signs can change after death. Coffee. L'chaim. Okay. Now, here's the proof. Bishlam elamanda Omar ben Shmona Esrei Shana Hanu dekaasu ve'Amru lei ma'ulevodko ela Omar ben Esrim ki bodku le ma'have ve'atran ben Esrim shlo shtei sayros yaviu rayishu ben Esrim vehu hasaris l'chodetz v'miyabim. Wow. Okay. So we have a machlokes between, let's say, Rave and, machlokes between Rave and Rav Huna bar Chinuna, both of whom are making different claims about what Rav Nachman actually said. How about this? We have two opinions. One is that the child could sell once he's 18. The other is that the child could sell once he's 20. Now, it's more than that. Once he's 18 and has shtei sayers, he's considered a gadol. If he's 18 and does not have shtei sayers, then he would be considered a kohen. And similarly, if you say 20, right? If he's 20 and has shtei sayers, then he would be considered a gadol. If he's 20 and does not have shtei sayers, then he would still be considered a kohen. So you need both things. You need the minimum age requirement, whether 18 or 20, plus shtei sayers. Now, I understand, right, this dialogue between whether it's the lekuchis or the family members. I think we had said it was basically the family members because the lekuchis had already taken it. Anyways, so I understand if this dialogue with Rabbi Akiva about opening up the kever to check for the shtei sayers, so to have me to say that, well, let's just see if there's shtei sayers, and then we'll be able to tell, was he an adult, was he a minor? So I can understand that dialogue if we say that a kohen who's 18 is able to sell. So I get it. We know his age. Okay, we didn't know if he had shtei sayers or not, but we know his age, right? So therefore, if we say that he died at 18 years old, and they're saying, hey, let's go open up the kever and let's see, did he also have shtei sayers? If yes, that means he's an adult. If no, that means he's a minor. Matov manoim, givaldi. But if you say that the minimum age is 20, which means that he would have to be 20 and also have shtei sayers, well then this Havamina doesn't really work. What's the suggestion? The suggestion is, why don't we go to the kever, open up the kever, and see if he has shtei sayers. If he has shtei sayers, if he's 20 and if he died when he was 20 and he has shtei sayers, then he'll be an adult. If he doesn't have shtei sayers, he'll be a minor. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. You can have somebody who's 20 years old, does not have shtei sayers, and be a gadol. How so? A saris, a castrato. Remember the castratos from it's probably Masechta Yevamis? Maybe he's a saris. If somebody's 20 years old and does not have shtei sayers, he could be a castrato. In which case he's an adult. He's just a castrato. So I understand if right this whole havamina to go and open up the kever and check for shtei sayers, that really only makes sense if we say that that the minimum age is 18. Okay, if he's 18 and he has shtei sayers, he's a gadol. If he's 18 and he doesn't have shtei sayers, he's a kohen. But if you say that it's 20, okay, if he's 20 and he has shtei sayers, okay, memele he's a gadol. But if he doesn't have shtei sayers, he could still be a gadol, a saris. Okay, so from the bottom line of Daf Kuf Nun Hey Amud Aleph, after I take another sip of coffee. So Bishlam Lamando Omar ben Shmoneh Esrei Shana. So I understand if we say that the minimum age is 18, okay, that's why they're coming and asking Rabbi Akiva, let's open up the kever, let's check for shtei sayers. If there's shtei sayers, he's a gadol. If there's no shtei sayers, he's a kohen. Elo, Yaman ben Esrim, but if you say that the minimum age to sell from the father's estate is 20, kibat kuli mayhave, checking wouldn't help. Because even if he doesn't have shtei sayers, we learn in a Mishnah in, I guess, Yevamis, ben esim v'lovi shtei sayers, that if he's 20 years old and he does not have shtei sayers, yavi raya shehu ben esrim, let him bring proof that he's 20 years old, vehu hasaris, and he's a saris, he's an adult, he's just a saris. We recognize that, but the issue is not that he's a minor, he's an adult, just that he's a castrato. And therefore, if his brother died and he didn't have any children, this castrato would not do yibum chalitza, because the whole point of yibum is to have a child, right, and be named after the brother who died. A castrato is incapable of having children, therefore it doesn't do yibum, it doesn't do chalitza either. So therefore, it's possible that even if he wouldn't have shtei sayers, he could just be a saris. So what are you checking for? Well, says the Gemara, Lavit Maralo, Rav Shmuel Bar Amar Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak Amar Rav, V'shenoldu bo simonei saris. Well, it's not just that he's 20 and does not have shtei saris, therefore memele he's a saris, nit. If he's 20 and does not have shtei saris and has other sort of symptoms of a saris, well then he's a saris. It's not just enough. So you could still say that the minimum age is 20, and they wanted to check for shtei saris because he was 20 years old. He didn't have any other symptoms of being a saris, and therefore we would be able to say that if he has shtei saris, he's an adult. If he doesn't have shtei saris, he's a katan because he didn't display any other symptoms of being a saris. Okay, shma mino. And says Rava, we can also infer that because it says who ha-saris. He is the saris, I guess implying that he had other symptoms of being a castrato. Simone saris. Okay, so let's say you have somebody who's 20 years old, does not have shtei saris, but also has no other symptoms of being a saris. So we say he's a katan, right? If he doesn't have any other symptoms of being a castrato, we would not assume that he's a castrato. So we say he's a katan. He doesn't have shtei saris. He's a katan. How long would we consider him a katan for? If he's 100 years old and he still doesn't have shtei saris, he's still a katan. So ad kama tani rebchia ad rov shnosov, until the majority of his years. I.e., the pasuk says yemei shnosav boim shivim shana. Yemei shnosenu boim shivim shana. So if we assume 70 years, so half would be 35. So 36 years old already. If he still has no shtei saris at that point, he's no longer considered a katan. Okay. If somebody were to come to Reb Chia, and this somebody has not yet reached puberty, and he's getting older, and he wants to, if you want to kind of bring on puberty, so kochish amlu livrei, if he's thin, Reb Chia would recommend fattening up the ivrei, and if he was fattened up, amalu likchush, he would suggest getting thinner. Deani simone zimnin dasumachmas chishusa zimnin dasumachas briusa. Okay, because I guess shtei saris sometimes can be caused by thinness, and sometimes can be caused by fatness. I'm going to drink more coffee. Fragte Gemara. So the 18th year itself, or the 20th year itself, respectively, right? So when a person is in their 18th year or in their 20th year, is that year considered like the previous year, i.e., he's still unable to sell from the estate, or once you're in your 18th year, is it, let's say, assuming that's 18 years, so once you're in your 18th year, so you're already considered like you are able to sell from the estate. So is it considered, when you're in your 18th year, is it still considered like you're too young, or at that point are you already considered old enough to be able to sell from the estate? Okay. Rabbi Omer of Nachman says, Rabbi in the name of Nachman, Tochzman Kilifneizman, that the 18th year itself, assuming it's 18, verses 20, just so we can be working with one of the options. So, though it could just as easily be the 20th year, but we'll go with 18. So within the 18th year, Kilifneizman, it's like earlier than that, he's still considered a minor, he'd be unable to sell from the estate. Rava bar Rav Shila, Omer of Nachman, Tochzman Kila Acherzman. Now within the 20th year is considered that he's old enough. Now when Rava says Tochzman Kilifneizman, he actually never said that explicitly. It was implied from a story. Because there was somebody within that 18th year who sold from their father's estate. And then I guess the other heirs came to Rava, Omar Lehu, and he said to them, Lo asa velo klum. Well, the sale is not relevant because he's too young. So whoever observed this figured out, well, okay, Rava's opinion must be Tochzman Klifneizman, that the 18th year or the 20th year itself is like the earlier years, and he's still too young to sell, and therefore the sale is invalid. Veloi, but that's not actually true. Hasam, in that particular case, shtusi yiserta chazabe, Rava noticed that this child was being particularly making particularly bad judgment. He was freeing all of his avodim, so therefore Rava noticed that this child was not in a position to be making responsible business choices. That is why he said that that it is irrelevant. But in general, we would say that the 18th year, we could argue, would be already old enough to be able to sell. Okay. Interesting. Okay, but he was being particularly irresponsible. Fine. Shalach le Gidol bar Menashe le Rave. Gidol bar Menashe sent to Rave. Damdenu Rabbeinu teach us. Tinokes bas arba esrei shana v'yom echad. So if you have a girl who is 14 years and a day, Yodas betiv maso ma'in, and she understands business. She understands buying, selling. She gets it. Ma'u, if she sells from her father's estate, if she inherited her father, she sells from her father's estate. Ma'u, would it be a valid sale or not? Shalach lei, and Rava responded, Im Yodas betiv maso ma'in mekach mekach memkar memkar. Well, if she understands business, she knows what she's doing, so it's a valid sale. In fact, the Gemara, why would Rav Gidol bar Menashe ask about a girl? Why not ask about a boy who's 14 years old? Well, he was asking based on a specific thing that actually happened, and in that specific scenario, it happened to be a girl, not a boy. Why not ask about a girl who's 12 in a day, right? Meaning she's already an adult, she's 12, but she's not yet 20 or 18. So what 14 is a random number. Could have been 15, 16, 17, or why say 14 in a day? Why not 12 in a day? So well, again, it was based on an actual story that happened, and it was a girl who was 14 in a day. So that's why I asked. So we see that so interesting. So we see that even if a person is less than the minimum requirement that we had said, either 18 or 20. So even if they're younger than that, but they understand business, they understand what it means to buy and to sell, well then, once they're 13, once they're an adult, and they understand what it means to buy and to sell, well then, they can already sell from their father's estate. But if they don't understand what it means to buy and sell, well then, until 18 or 20, their sale would be invalid. Once you hit the minimum age, though, whether 18 or 20, then it would be valid, even if they don't necessarily understand what they're doing at that point, it would be valid. How pachis ben esrim, there was somebody who was less than 20 years old. Oh, okay, fine. So he was less than 20, fine. Dazozovin nichsei avu, kigil bar Menashe, and he went and he sold his father's estate. Okay. I don't know why it necessarily says Kigilu bar Menashe, but Kilu bar Menashe did, though, however, make this distinction just now between whether he understands what he's doing or not. So also the comment de Rava, so the case came before Rava, Amrule, Krove, so what just happened? You have a child who was less than the minimum age to be able to sell property. He was more than bar mitzvah, but less than the minimum age to be able to sell property. And he sold from his father's estate. So now the big shaila is, did he understand what he was doing or not? Because we had just said, like Gidol bar Menashe, we had just said that, well, if he understands what he's doing, if he's more than bar mitzvah and he understands what he's doing, it's valid, even though he's less than 20. So now he had sold from his father's estate, and either he or his relatives, whatever, it was decided that they want to renege. So his relatives coached him to essentially argue, or let's go back there for a second. Amr le Krovi, so his relatives coached him. Zil achol tamre ushdibe kashosa be Rava. Why don't you go and eat dates and spit the pits into Rava's house. Kilu, make yourself look like an idiot. And if you're an idiot, well then clearly you don't understand buying and selling. And since you're less than 20, and you don't understand buying and selling, the sale will be memela invalid. So Aved, so he did this, he made himself into an idiot. Zabini loves Zabini. So Rava says, okay, this guy's an idiot. His sale is invalid. He's less than 20. He clearly doesn't understand buying and selling. The sale is invalid. But then there was a twist in the plot. Okay, so Rava told his scribes of the court, okay, go write up a document about the decision. So now the buyers, those who received the estate that was sold to them, they said to this person who's less than 20 who sold them the estate, Zil Ema Leila Rava, hey, why don't you, we're going to give you some advice, why don't you go to Rava and say to him, Megillas Esther Bezuza, Shtar Demar Bezuza? I don't understand, right? They coached this kid to say to Rava, I don't understand why you're charging me so much to have this document written. You're charging me a zuz to write this document. I can get a whole Megillas Esther for a zuz. It doesn't make sense that something, such a long and significant thing like Megillas Esther should be the same price as this document outlining the verdict. It doesn't make any business sense. So Azal Amale, so this child went and he said this to Rava. I shouldn't have to pay a zuz for this. Amar lehu, to which Rava says, wait a second, I thought you were an idiot. Zabine, he says, wait a second, you clearly can understand relative values and understand the value of Megillas Esther and the value of a document of the courts. And you're making an argument based on that. Clearly, there's more to you than you made yourself out to be. So then he reverted. He changed the verdict and he said, Omar lehu zabine. It's a valid sale. Omar le krove. But then the relatives who had coached him initially to make himself look like an idiot, to invalidate the sale, they went to Rava and they said, wait, lekuchas agmeru. 1 second. The recipients who wanted to keep the estate, they coached him to say that. That wasn't his own original thinking. Amalu, Rava says it doesn't matter. Mazbrele Sovar became the Mazbrele Visovar Meda Yoda. Yes, but it wasn't his original thinking, but he understood it. They explained to him relative values, Megillas Esther, a document of the court. He understood what it meant. So since, maybe it wasn't his original thinking, but he understood the svara, he understood the thinking, so he gets business. By the Aved Achi, the reason why he was spitting date pits into my house, chutz beyisertu the havabe, because he's a big shmendrik. But just because he's a big shmendrik, he could also still understand what it means to buy and to sell while being a big shmendrik, and therefore the sale is valid. Omar Rafuna Beder of Yeshua v'la edus eduso edus. Now, when it comes to testimony, the testimony would be valid. Meaning, we said that if somebody is, let's say, 15 years old and does not understand buying and selling, so the sale of the estate is invalid. However, he would still be able to be a witness. Omar, right, because he's bar mitzvah already, could be a witness. Omar Marzutra, lo Omar and Ella l'metaltalin. It can only be a witness for metaltalin because even though he can't sell his father's estate, since he doesn't understand buying and selling, but he would still be able to sell metaltalin, movable objects, and therefore he could testify about movable objects. He could testify about that which he could sell. But not for property, since he wouldn't be able to testify about property, since he can't actually sell property until he's old enough, since he doesn't understand buying and selling. Amalei Ravashi leMarzutra. So Ravashi says to Marzutra, Ma'ishna metaltale. Why can he testify about movable objects? Is Zabine? Well, because he could sell movable objects, therefore he could testify about them. But if it's all about if you could sell something, then you can testify about something. That which we learned in, I guess, I think Gittin, in the Mishnah, Haputis mekha mekha mimkar, even children less than 13, if they sell, right, b'metaltalin, if they sell metaltalin, once I think they're already 6 or 7, they'd be able to, it would be a valid sale. Hachinami they do san edus. Well, then are you telling me that a minor who is able to sell metaltalin can already testify as a minor? If it's all about, if you could buy and sell, right, if you could sell, then you could testify. Well, then even minors should be able to testify about metaltalin. Amar lei. So Marzutra responds, look, when it comes to testimony, when it comes to edus, the pasuk specifically says v'amdu shnei anashim. They have to be adults, and therefore that excludes ketanim. But once they're adults, they can testify even if they don't understand buying and selling, since they would be able to sell metaltalin. Amar Meimar, says a Meimar, umatnaso ma tone, and his gift is a gift. So we say that if you have somebody who's less than 18 or 20 and they do not understand buying and selling, so they cannot sell their father's estate, but they can give it as a gift, right? Umatnaso ma tone, can give it as a gift. Ravashi says, I don't understand. Umazabine, selling, that he's receiving money in exchange. Omart, we say, Dilo, that he cannot sell it, because maybe he's going to be selling it for too much. He doesn't understand buying and selling. He's going to sell it for too little, right? Since he doesn't understand buying and selling, we're concerned, right, that if he's a cotton, we're concerned that if he's less than the minimum age and he does not understand buying and selling, so we say his sale is invalid because he might sell it for too little and get ripped off. Well then, well then certainly he should be unable to give gifts, since there he's not getting anything at all. Certainly we should be concerned that he's making a irresponsible decision by giving it away as a gift. Omar lei, to which Amema responds, according to that logic, Zovin shovi chamsha b'shisa, hachinami zabine zabine. So based on that logic, that if he doesn't understand business, if he doesn't understand buying and selling, so we say he's not allowed to, if we say his sale is invalid since he might sell it for too little, well then what if he sells it for too much? Right? Well, what if he sells the property for, and he makes, he makes a windfall. He makes a nice profit. Would that be valid? No, it wouldn't. Because we said he can't. His sale is invalid no matter what price he sells it for. So it isn't actually about getting ripped off. Rather, the logic is that the rabbis know that when it comes to this young child who doesn't understand buying and selling, but he does like money, and if you offer him money, he'll take it. And if we say that his sale is valid when he doesn't understand buying and selling, well then it could be very easy to trick him and take advantage of him, since all you have to do is like dangle some money in front of him and he'll get excited, and before you know it, he sold his father's entire estate. So specifically when it comes to money, it would be easy to take advantage of him, since he'll say, oh wow, great, yes, I'll take the money, even though he's making irresponsible decisions. Aval gabi matona, when it comes to a gift where there's no money involved, the child would not give away the estate unless there was a good reason for it. Somebody helped him out, so therefore, in return, the child gave him from the estate. The rabbi said, therefore the rabbi said, you know what? If the child wants to give it away as a gift, that's fine, because that way people will help him out. He's a yosim. If people are willing to help him out, right, and he wants to sort of pay them back with by giving them a gift from the estate, that is valid, so that people will be more willing to help him, and a yosim needs help. Friends, that was Daf Kuf Nun Masechta BavaBasra. We discussed that when there's a minimum age for a child to be able to sell from his father's estate, from the property, what is that minimum age? So machlokes, it's either 18 or 20. We then qualified it by saying that that's only if he doesn't understand buying and selling. But if he's an adult and he understands buying and selling, so then already he could sell from the father's estate, even though he's less than 18 or 20. But when it comes to metaltalim, and that's specifically property, but when it comes to metaltalim, movable objects, he can already sell. Even a minor can sell that. We said at the end that in terms of gifting it, even if he wouldn't be able to sell it, he would be able to gift it. All right, friends, that was Daf Kuf Nun Hey of Masechta BavaBasra. Tomorrow we are going to be learning Daf Kuf Nun Vav, which is exciting because Kuf Nun Hey is already exciting. Right, today's Daf is exciting because this is Masechta BavaBasra. The last Daf is Kuf Ayin Vav, which means that 176 minus 155 is 21, which means 3 weeks from today we will, what's today, a Tuesday? At least for me it is. 3 weeks from today, we will be making a siyum on Masechta BavaBasra, which is, wow, that's a big one. Peace out.